So today we're going to be talking about the new Age of Ultron trailer. Oh my god!
Woo! I'm so excited.
Explosions, Pinocchio.
So we should probably start by showing the trailer to
Yeah.
the audience.
So here's the Age of Ultron trailer.
I'm gonna show you something beautiful. Everyone screaming for mercy. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. You're all puppets, tangled in strings.
It's the end. The end of the path I started us on.
Nothing lasts forever.
There are no strings on me.
So that was the trailer for Age of Pinocchio. So I think the movie is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be really great. Well, just because it's based on everything Marvel's doing.
I agree.
And everything. I think it's going to be great. I dislike some things about the trailer. One, as I've mentioned, is that because Disney owns Marvel now, you can use some Disney things. And the whole theme of the trailer is the I've got no strings thing.
You think that's Disney's fault for
No, it's not Disney's fault, but they were only allowed to use that song because Pinocchio is owned by Disney.
Oh, okay.
So they took the song from Pinocchio that's like, I've got the strings to hold me down, and all that junk. And they basically were just like, alright, Ultron is going to say these things. And the only line that we get to see Ultron, his reveal in the trailer is he's like, there are no strings on me. And it's
I think it's kind of cool.
It's interesting, but it's a little cheese. It's a little cheese. Like I said, I think the movie's going to be dope.
If Ultron is not a little bit cheesy, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
He's really,
he's being played by James Spader,
which is awesome.
He's amazing. But there is a certain level of cheese to most of his performances. Yeah.
Sure.
Not that there's anything wrong.
No, not that there's anything wrong.
And I think having him cast as Ultron is fantastic because he's so creepy.
His
And
voice is great.
We see that in the trailer because, if you've ever seen Ultron in comic books, he doesn't have that much expression at all. He's
He's got one straight face.
Right, and very more robotic, for lack of a better term. And you could see in the trailer that Marvel gave him more of a face.
Makes sense.
Which totally makes sense. If you're going to pay for the money for James Spader and he's going to motion capture the whole thing, get as much expression from him as you can.
Well, even from a story standpoint, if we had the robot face, that works great in, cartoons and stuff, and comic books especially, because
You're not animating it.
Yeah.
But having a guy with a straight face for the whole movie, I don't think it would work the same. It wouldn't be the same. Like, this movie is very much reliant on the villain.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have the same impact.
He's the subtitle.
Can I just say, I think it's really funny that you're saying that while wearing a Darth Vader shirt.
All comes back to Star Wars. All comes back to Star Wars.
I guess there's a level of irony here.
But, I mean, you do already have like a straight-faced guy like Iron Man. Like, you know, his mask is straight-faced, so that's why he's always not in the Iron Man suit. I mean, also because he's Robert Downey Jr., but,
Yes.
you know. Because he's a robot all the time, you can't have him take off his robot.
Right.
So
I heard some people say that he might, like, you know, put on the Ultron face. You know, it might be part of like a transformation or like a battle mode almost. And then, you know, he'll fight.
it's possible.
It's possible. Anyways, but I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that he has a face at all. I think it's great.
So, if I understood this correctly, the implication is that Tony Stark is responsible for the creation of Ultron?
I think that's
Is that-
the idea. I think they're going to hint, because Age of Ultron and Ant-Man are coming out next summer.
Yes.
So I think there will be hints, threads to Ant-Man through Ultron. But I think it's more of a Tony Stark thing.
Okay.
Right.
Which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah,
They've been
because
doing a
at
lot
the
of-
end of Iron Man 3, spoilers, he kind of says, you know, like he's done being Iron Man, he doesn't want to do that. So I think...
No, I don't think that was the ending to that movie.
You don't think that was the ending to that
He said
movie?
he was starting over. He's getting rid of all the old Iron Man stuff, and he's just like, I'm going to start over.
I was under the impression that he...
Well, he's in this movie, and he's going to be in Captain America. That's already 2 films he's confirmed to be in.
Right,
And all the rumors about Civil War, which we could talk about later.
sure.
You know.
Clearly he's still Iron
Yeah.
Man.
No, we know that's happening, but I think he wanted to be it. Anyways, he was building, I think, like, the idea is that he wanted to build, like, robots to help protect the world rather than him doing it.
So, like automate
okay.
his purpose is what you're
Right,
saying?
automate what he's doing. Starting over, like, not me in a suit, but, like, robots. So I think
Oh, okay.
Ultron is going to come from that.
Didn't that already fail in Iron Man 2? Didn't they already try
Yeah,
to
he
do
didn't see
that?
Iron Man 2, so he doesn't,
Yeah.
He doesn't know how
he didn't
terribly...
see how it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
He didn't
So it's already... They've already touched that idea where it's like, I'll create automated robots that do my job, but then that...
Well, I mean, if you have Tony Stark behind it, might
Maybe,
work. But clearly it doesn't.
Clearly not.
Yeah, it only didn't work in Iron Man
Only
2
he saw the
because
trailer.
Sam Rockwell trusted Ivan Von Whipman, and
Ivan Ooze.
and he was just like, "No, I want my burden." He did his whole thing.
Which I kind of like Iron Man 2. It wasn't as good as the first one, but...
I like Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
No, the Iron Man, the sequels aren't bad. They're just, like, not as good as the original,
Yeah.
essentially.
Sure.
You know, I like Iron Man as part of the Avengers. Like, in the team, he fits.
Yeah.
very
Oh
well.
man, I think one of my favorite parts of the Avengers movie is it's such like a small thing, but like when they're all together, and then Iron Man turns to Captain America and he goes, "Call it, Cap." I don't know why, like I get goosebumps when he says that. Because,
I honestly don't even remember that scene.
and then like that's when Captain America is just like, "Thor, you get on the roof and Jen, you go." Blah,
Oh,
blah.
is this after the shot of them
Yeah,
all spinning
after
around?
like the big shot that's like.
Oh, I'm so focused on the shot of them spinning around and how cool that is.
Yeah. See,
Have them
again,
all in one
the
shot.
weird, like, technical, like, story
Yeah.
reversal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris really focuses on the story. I really focus on how the movie looks.
Yeah.
Which is, I did not like a lot of how the first Avengers looks. There's a lot of like weird shots.
Like weird CG.
Like they're not even CG because they spent a lot of money on sets. There's this one scene in the first one where they're at that NASA base at the beginning, and
Okay.
Samuel L. Jackson is there, and the shot is like up, facing him, and then he walks out of the frame, and it's still staying there on the background of this wall for like an extra second. And
It's like, why didn't you remove that?
Some of that stuff just bothers me.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's because it bothers me.
I'm sure I'm going to see it now and be like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
Way to ruin it.
it
for
literally
everyone
only
else.
bothers me.
Yeah.
And then you see this movie, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's going to look
It
so
looks, it's like beautiful how well it's shot.
It's trailer.
Just from the trailer.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
trailer, yeah.
but I was reading, they do have, it's the same cinematographer from Guardians of the Galaxy, and that movie was
looks
beautiful.
Yeah.
So promising on that front.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's very promising.
Continuing with Iron Man, let's talk about the Hulkbuster.
Oh, okay.
I am so excited for the Hulkbuster, but mostly because I hate the Hulk. I hate him with a dire passion, and I can't wait to see Robert Downey Jr. beat the shit out of him.
Well, like I don't know, that's like a cool idea, but like it all has to do with what they're shooting for in the future. Because like having the Hulk as part of the Avengers almost inevitably is going to lead to him being like sort of like the Avengers fight against the Hulk because he's sort of uncontrollable.
Villain.
That's like that's
And that's,
that always happens. So I kind of saw that coming.
That's kind of true in the comic books too. Is that he was in the Avengers for like a day, and they were like, "I hate this guy, get him out of here."
They realized he's the Hulk.
Before, like years before the first Avengers came out, one of the first rumors was that like, oh, the Hulk would be like the main villain.
Right.
So I guess like they're kind of going off of that. I don't know if he's gonna be completely villainous in this film, or if it's gonna be another thing like the first Avengers, where it's like, no, he's Hulk now, we gotta beat him up, or something.
Did you guys ever see the Ultimate Avengers cartoon?
Right. I have seen that, and I've read the Ultimates that it was based on.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of basing these Marvel movies on the Ultimates.
Yeah.
Because you look back and that Nick Fury is actually based on Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel Jackson, and then they got
all their
Jackson.
pretty much all their visuals, like all the way they design these characters, are based on the Ultimate.
The way Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor's look especially
definitely,
too.
yeah.
But Black Widow and Hawkeye, the way they are Shield agents as opposed
That's
to
from the Ultimates.
That's from the Ultimates.
Yeah, so it's pretty heavily Ultimate based, and like, if you ever seen that movie, like in that one, like there's like these aliens that are tied into like Captain America's World War II thing, so sort of like where it almost replaces like the Hydra sort of element that they include, and then but a big section of it is like they're fighting the aliens.
Well, those aliens are the Chitauri from.
Oh, really?
From Avengers 1, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
But then a large part of it is like they're fighting the Hulk, because the Hulk gets out, and he's like initially he's helping them fight the aliens, and then he goes crazy because he's the Hulk, and then a lot of it is just like them trying to contain him.
Banner also a Shield agent or a Shield scientist.
Yeah,
that was his, part. He was working on Super Soldier. Just like
it was more neatly tied than
there was a lot of connections.
Sure.
But that was almost inevitable, and I think the Hulkbuster is cool as like a concept.
Oh yeah.
I like how it's like his armor is inside the big armor.
It's like he's got armor, and then it's like double.
I heard you like armor, so I put some armor.
But that, even though I'm super excited for that, that's another complaint for me about the way this whole movie is advertised, is that like I just didn't. I'm the type of person that's like I didn't want to know that there was going to be a Hulkbuster like and a big Hulk fight scene. Like if I went into that movie like thinking like, oh, Bruce Banner's on their side, and that happened, I'd be like, whoa, in the theater. Yeah. But instead, it's like they've talked about the Hulkbuster. They showed concept art of it.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming, and then they just like show it in the trailer,
Very prominent.
just to like
Yeah.
Ooh, look at
this
it.
goes back to when the new Godzilla movie. Hear me out. The new Godzilla movie.
No, I told you I kind of like it.
They don't show a lot of Godzilla in the trailer.
Right.
But got me to go see the movie. And you see like the one Godzilla like scream at the end, which is like, ah! That's what gets you to see the movie.
Yeah.
So you go and see the movie, and you're like, Godzilla, okay, this is cool, he's beating up the monsters. And then,
Spoilers, probably.
Spoilers! And then he, like, the tip of his tail starts to glow, and then the whole back, like, builds up, and you're like, and then, like, everyone who's friends with you that has never seen a Godzilla movie, so they don't know what's happening. Yeah. And then he just does the atomic.
And you're like, yeah.
And your friend's like, oh shit, that's so awesome. Yeah. And that's the same type of thing that they could have easily have done with this Hulkbuster stuff. Because if you have Banner, he looked pretty stressed out in the movie, which is a common theme with the
in
Hulk.
That trailer,
his job is to be stressed out.
He looked pretty stressed out in the first Avengers. This movie, he looks like he hasn't had like his heroin in a month. Like he's like just chilling.
It looks like he has no control.
Which is what the first Avengers really pushed, because it's like they realized they couldn't have Crazy Hulk, so they sort of pushed this like whole thing like he has it under control.
Yeah.
Because
Which
they
is-
couldn't make it work otherwise.
Which is definitely the most awkward part of the first Avengers. Like, he hulks out, and then at the end, he's like, oh, no, it's don't get hurt. You're like, fuck.
Even though that scene was badass. But back to
Of
Godzilla.
course, sure.
Back to Godzilla. It was like, you build up. It's like you kind of forget that he has that power until it happens, and then it's like, oh shit, and then the build up. But it's like that's the same thing you could do with the Hulk and Iron Man. It's like you build up this plot thread throughout the movie, and it's like, oh, what the fuck are they gonna do when he hulks out and they can't control him? And then you're like, oh shit, Iron Man has the Hulkbuster armor that he can use and kick the shit out of him.
I think we, like, as, like, comic book fans, like, we underestimate, like, people who, like, don't know anything about Ultron going into these movies and stuff. And, like, so for us, it's like, oh, well, I've read a bunch of comic books, I know that, like, when the Hulk fights Iron Man, like, he has, like, a Hulkbuster armor.
Right.
But not knowing that, I think I think they advertise more to, like, people like us and less to, like, the common people, and so they're like, ooh, we're expecting the Hulkbuster, and we know what they're talking about, but they should just be like, oh, maybe Iron Man will fight the Hulk, and then people will be like, how are they going to do that? And then you see that armor for the first time, and you're like, oh, snap.
So it's just a matter of, like, suspense, like, they're showing too much.
I'm saying suspense, go for suspense.
Yeah,
right. No, I mean, we're also speculating super hard, so we have no idea what they're going to do.
Why would he have a Hulkbuster if there wasn't at least one scene where the Hulk is, going crazy?
We've already seen in the trailer him throwing a car at Iron Man.
I don't know how
going to punch.
I don't know how prominent that will be, because I mean, there was a scene in the Avengers where when he first turns into the Hulk, like he's like Black Widow is
Hulk busting stuff.
as Black Widow, she's running away from the Hulk, and then he gets like thrown off the ship. So it's sort of like they have that element where like the Hulk is a dangerous team member, like he can be a threat to us as a group, but they sort of tidily resolved that in the first film. Right. And it could be a similar thing where it's like a one-off, like there was a building up conflict,
like a mini boss in the movie.
Yeah,
that's kind of what he was.
But
that's fine. I'd be fine with that.
Then it's a double-edged sword, because if you do that in the first Avengers movie and then do it again in the second Avengers, it's like, oh, he's gonna bust out and then they're gonna calm him down and he's fine. Like, I don't know. I would kind of be annoyed at that if it was like the same.
Well, unless it's like 22 Jump Street where it's super meta. Yeah. And it's like, do the exact same thing. It works.
Well, maybe it's more prominent, like story element.
I don't know.
I'm like we're speculating, but I would imagine it'd be more similar to the first one.
Sure.
They're probably not going to fuck with the formula too much after making billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So just like a financial prediction.
Sure.
They're probably going to make billions.
To me, if I already made billions of dollars, my idea would be to fuck with it as much as I can and keep going.
So that's like Aliens. It's like make a completely different movie and like it also will work.
It's also awesome.
Yeah, but that's like a rare thing. For them, it's like we got to make sure that this is similar to the first one, which was successful. That way, people go see Avengers 5. 10 years from now.
Oh my God.
You got it's a long.
The crazy part is that it's so possible.
Yeah. So that's how they're thinking, like in a financial sense.
Right. These movies are very produced. I want to say, it's like you have the director for namesake alone. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we have these writers and directors, and they've written some other stuff that's kind of similar, so we'll get you hooked on that, and then it's just like. But they are all so heavily produced, and it's like a factory making this movie.
But a very careful, well-made factory.
Yeah,
because I mean the people behind it have a strong idea of what works and what doesn't, and what will get us interested as like fans of comic books, like that's
what will get the average person interested.
Yeah,
too.
Combining those interests well, because that's what they do well is balance like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Fucking weird fringe character, group of characters. They made it very accessible. But also, like, as someone who's read Guardians of the Galaxy and likes the cosmic scene, I thought it was a great movie too. So they pleased everyone, which is really hard. Like, it's really hard to please everyone.
That's
which is what they're able to do well.
They've done since like step one. Iron Man, like that movie. I went into it. I've seen Iron Man in cartoons and stuff, and read a few comics, but not Iron Man comics.
Yeah.
I was familiar with him, who he was, and me and my dad have both went to see it, and he's read Iron Man comic books for 100 years, and like it was one of those movies that you went into and you learned all the characters just by watching the movie. You didn't need any prerequisites
Yeah.
to see that. And same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's something that they do really well.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, even though they're heavily produced, like you say, it's not a hindrance on the movie. Where like if it were another company that was like making a superhero movie, I'm not gonna point fingers at DC, but DC, like, you know, they're like, we need all these elements because these other movies have them,
Right.
and they just sort of like, you know, where Marvel knows how to gracefully include these elements to work and please everyone. Like, you know, it could also go wrong. So it's, you know, kudos to them for keeping it all together.
Yeah. Well, that can lead to Dan was telling me earlier that he read an article about. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So I was reading an article. It was on Deadline, and it was an interview with semi-interview, editorial thing, where these superhero movies are often overlooked when it comes to Academy Awards and you know, just awards in general.
Right.
And you know, they're given the occasional nomination for like special effects, deserved.
Yeah,
You know, definitely. You know, special effects, sounds, you know, whirlies and things.
Yeah.
All the technical things, which is definitely, you know,
flashiness.
yeah, exactly. They totally deserve that recognition. But then it was an interview with Anthony and Joe Russo, who directed Captain America: Winter Soldier, which until Guardians was like the best Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And they very much want it to be treated as a film, not just a superhero movie, the way we treat it.
Yeah.
But they were talking about that the Academy overlooks these sorts of movies based solely on the fact that they are superhero movies. But they want people to recognize the artistic aspects, the cultural, the cultural elements in the film. It is a film about spies and espionage and
Remove the superhero elements out of it, it'd be pretty, you know.
The writer of the article jokingly says at the end, well, if you just called it The Winter Soldier and didn't have Captain America there, you'd probably get some nominations.
Yeah.
But it is one of the highest rated Marvel movies. It's one of the highest reviewed movies of the year. And that came out in April, and it's almost November now.
Yeah.
So that, you know, actually 3 of the highest reviewed movies in the year were Marvel superhero movies.
Yeah.
Guardians, X-Men, and Captain America. But beyond that, it is this, you know, it's culturally relevant. They wrote the movie before the NSA thing with Edward Snowden, but they had all that
in there.
You know,
It was super relevant. Yeah.
Security, freedom, all that stuff. And then they also have Robert Redford. And Robert Redford is known for his roles in the 70s as in these political spy thriller movies. He was famous for that. Having him come back to that genre,
Yeah, of course.
hooking him into being able to even cast him, because he is, one of those people who, it's like he's been around forever. It's like he's really, if he really likes the movie, he'll be in it. He doesn't do, he doesn't do blockbusters.
I believe, I don't mean to poo-poo on that idea, but I believe he stated that he did it because he wanted like his grandchildren to like watch a movie of his or something like that.
That's pretty cynical.
So that's pretty funny.
I'm only doing this for my grandkids. I don't.
But
yes,
but there is a reason they
I'm
wanted
sure,
him in the movie.
But I'm sure he like wouldn't like if he thought it was bad, he still wouldn't have been in it. He would have just
If he was very offended by it, he probably still would have.
Right.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But having him in it, he's this icon of the genre, and he plays, spoilers, the villain. He plays the villain, and he's never played the villain in these types of movies before.
Right.
So it's you have this referential like callback to these other movies. You have the modernization of that story.
Yeah.
I think it should be treated as a film. And
I think the problem there is that we like to conflate all these different elements of like the movie industry and like surround films as like equal or like in the same realm when they're really not. Because like, you know, we look at films from a perspective of like what do we like, what do we get at entertainment value, and as fans of comic books, we like to see how faithful they are. You know, the companies, they're looking at it from strict money, like what movies are making the most money. And, you know, from the perspective of, like, the Academy, it's really, there's a strong bias, not only against comic book movies, against comedies.
Comedies,
You're,
yeah.
of course,
you're not going to
yeah.
have a comedy
And
win, like, Best Picture, never.
That's
It's never gonna
another.
happen.
That's another topic that the Russos talk about in the article. They've done comedy. They've done Arrested Development and Community.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that. It's
Yeah.
very hard to direct
Of course.
comedy. It's all about timing and will it work with everyone and.
Yeah, it's really hard, and it gets no respect in terms of, like, as an art form. When you're looking at film as an art form, you know, the comedy, superhero films, you know, animated films, they're all going to be sort of like, you know, maybe animated films coming up more so.
Yeah, animated films.
But
have
even
been
still, that's a
treated
struggle.
pretty
You know?
nicely.
Yeah, it's still a struggle to get these other films recognized for their value, just because of the genre. And that bias won't go away anytime soon.
No,
That's
it's
just,
unfortunate.
yeah, it's a historical thing.
But, you know, these superhero movies, clearly we've seen from the fact that DC and Marvel are announcing movies a decade ahead of time that these movies are here to stay. So, you know, maybe not this phase, but maybe
In the future,
in the
some
future,
things will
you know,
change.
now some things will change.
Hopefully.
But with that, I think we're out of time. So thanks for watching.
Next week, we'll talk about Marvel's
Possible.
movie lineup. We're not sure yet.
And possibly Mr. Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange.
So,
Yes.
stay tuned.
So excited.